Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Aerosmith podcast, Get Your Wings, hosted by yours truly, Rob Mars. Happy New Year to everyone. I know we're a couple weeks into the new year, but this is my first episode of 2026. I am hoping to bring a lot more of this podcast to you during my first full year recording it. It's a big part of my New Year's resolution. Sorry, I've been away for a few weeks, but I am back, and I hope to generate a consistent schedule for this year for you guys. Now, this episode, I would have liked for it to have come out sooner because this is a Tom Hamilton-centered episode, ladies and gentlemen. The bassist of Aerosmith, for those of you who may not know, Mr. Sweet Emotion, as he's coined by Steven. So, the reason is because I originally came up with this idea during the holidays. New Year's Eve is Tom's birthday. He was born New Year's Eve, 1951. He is a year younger than Joe Perry, who was in a band with Tom before Aerosmith. They were friendly from the same area, and they were in a band together called the Jam Band. Actually, through this jam band is how Steven found Joe and decided that he wanted to play in a band with him, at least per Steven's version of the story. Obviously, different things may have happened in between, but the story goes that Steven was in his band at the time called Chain Reaction. He was done with being behind the kit. He was a drummer-singer combo. He wanted to be a frontman and sing, so decided to leave his band, and he went to go see Joe and the jam band play. They did a song called Rattlesnake Shake that Aerosmith does like to cover every now and again, and he saw them do that with all this rawness and just how loud Joe was playing at 11, as he still does to this day with his stack of Marshalls, and it all spawned from there, really. So Tom was a big part of that. But I often think of him during this time of year. Aerosmith has done a lot of New Year's Eve shows as well, so there have been a lot of references to it being Tom's birthday in front of a crowd of thousands, ready for them to rock. One of these specific instances can be found here on Classics Live 2, sorry, at the beginning of the second track, Walk This Way. Here we're gonna play that audio.
We got a birthday in the house, Tom Hamilton. Can we sing happy birthday for him? Happy birthday to you.
And so that is the reason I am titling this podcast episode A Birthday in the House, because we got a birthday in the house, baby, and it's Tom Hamilton. All right, now let's get into the thick of it. Initially, this was going to be a top 10 list of 10 of my favorite Tom Hamilton bass lines, whether it be for the groove of it, the technicality of it, the weight of the song itself, whatever it be. I was going to choose a personal 10 favorite, just go down from 10 to 1, kind of as we did with the Christmas episode. Instead, I evolved that idea a bit further, and we are instead going to do a randomized bracket. So, I've used Easy Bracket online. I've input the songs that are going to be involved. We have 12, okay? 12 songs that I've chosen. They're just songs that I enjoy. They're songs that I think have a prevalent bass line. Maybe the bass carries the groove. Maybe it carries, a lot of weight intertwining with the melody, or it does some of its own things within the song that really make it shine. So these are my personal choices. Caveat with this, I've excluded Sweet Emotion and Janie's Got a Gun. Those are two of the biggest writing credits that Tom has to his name in terms of Aerosmith famous tracks. So I've excluded those because they're a little bit, I would consider them low-hanging fruit in this scenario. So to make the bracket a little more entertaining, they are not being considered, even though they are great songs with unique and obviously, in Sweet Emotion's case, legendary bass lines. So that's just a caveat for you guys to keep in mind here. Now, Each matchup has been completely randomly generated. The only thing that I've switched around is because I want this concept to exist, at least for the first round, is that for each first round matchup, every song pitted against the other is going to be a pre-comeback era song, which would be considered anything prior to Permanent Vacation, which is 1987, versus a post-comeback song. So anything Permanent Vacation and forward. So those two eras will be pitted against one another, at least for this very first round of the bracket. Now, before we get into each matchup individually, let's talk about the songs involved. So, we've got SOS Too Bad from Get Your Wings. We've got Fever from Get a Grip. We've got Mama Kin from the self-titled debut, Something's Gotta Give from 9 Lives. We've got Make It, also from the debut. We've got Light Inside from 2001's Just Push Play. Sight for Sore Eyes from Draw the Line. Love Her a Lot from Music from Another Dimension. Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man from Pump. Jig Is Up from Rockin' a Hard Place. Hand That Feeds, also from Draw the Line. And Samurai from Permanent Vacation. So, those are the songs involved here. And I think we're ready to go, basically. So, the first matchup is going to be SOS Too Bad versus Fever. Now, I do have some notes as a precursor before getting into all of this. I am not a musician, so you might hear some similar things out of my mouth today. You might hear some not so technical terms. I'm going to do my best. I feel like I do have a good ear for music, even though I might not know all of the technical terms. I hope that anyone can pick this up, listen to the tracks, and understand what I'm saying, and maybe find your own reasons, whether you do or don't like them. So, with this first matchup here, SOS Too Bad, it's just a straight up groove and feel. Right away, the rhythm section really ropes the whole song together, I would say, for the entire band, really following them throughout this song. Steven's melody syncs right up with it, and the guitars, both Brad and Joe, even though Brad is part of the rhythm section, it really accents very well. As far as the bass, it's a real tasteful doubling of the guitars. Prominent in the mix, you can really hear the thump and the low end that it provides. Like I said, an unmistakable groove, sort of a staccato playing that really accents Joe and Brad perfectly, and it pierces right through what Joey is beating into the drums. It's really, he's in lockstep, Tom, with the entire rest of the rhythm section during the solo, and he does an exceptional job building with Steven Tyler's vocal line to the chorus. It really builds up some tension. And that is something I would say is a consistent theme here with Tom and his bass lines, whether they're overt or not in the mix. He is a big piece in terms of leading the band in and out of sections of songs. He became a master at it over time, and you can really tell how it's a linchpin for the rest of the band to proceed forward to the next section of a song. Too Bad is a really, really rockin' one. I think it's an underrated tune in general in Aerosmith's discography. Same thing goes for Fever. Super underrated. Fever off of Get a Grip, 1993. This is one of those tracks that really doesn't get enough love when people talk about Aerosmith's comeback era and, you know, them quote-unquote selling out or becoming more commercial. I think they just straight up forget about tracks like this and how heavy they really could be and how much they took advantage of the crisper production that started to exist during this era. With this song, Fever, right from the beginning, the bass is setting a tone. It's the first note that you hear, along with the drums and some Steven harmonica. It's got some real energy and power It's got a great use by Tom of syncopation during the chorus. Alright? Like, I would say a lot of syncopation in terms of the notes being more accented than the other. It's got a really cool ascending bass line during the second part of the chorus. And one of my favorite lines that actually references the bass in this song is, "The guitar's cranking, the bass man's blown a fuse." So it really just lends itself to this song being a jam for the entire band to really gel with one another. And it feels like something that could have been recorded live, even if there are some overdubs or vocal layering clearly done in post, so to speak, by Steven or anything like that. Now, this is a tough first matchup, so it's really hard for me to pick. Again, I'm seeing all of these matchups for the first time. Based on groove alone, I think I have to go with SOS, although the bass might be a little bit more articulate on its own within Fever. I think the power and the grittiness and darkness of the sound of SOS is just too overpowering here, so I think that's going to move on. Alright, so the second matchup of the first round, we've got the debuts Mama Kin versus 9 Lives Something's Gotta Give. Now, let me tell you, when I first started compiling this list, I wasn't sure what was going to make it. I was kind of just looking around different moments of the band's discography, seeing what I could find, versus also having some other songs already in mind for the bracket. Mama Kin, as famous as it is, I've always thought of it as a classic Stephen and Joe song. You're following that great guitar lick and Steven's melody with the lyrics and storytelling of the song, honestly. I understand you might say there's not a ton there, but really this song has a cool story about being on the road and still being true to who you are. Steven was actually so confident in this song, he got it tattooed on him. This is one of his only real tattoos. A lot of other stuff is drawn. However, the bass line, let me tell you, there's an opening jam to this song, an extended jam on the studio version, and Tom leads the way with this, really. He really sets the tone. He targets the horn section on the opening and really weaves himself within this portion of the song. He's hauling the band through the opening solo. He's equally domineering during the verses, taking the reins on the rhythm section. Very poignant with his notes and his placement of them. On this song, he's very high in the mix. Again, it's something, honestly, at least to me, if you're not listening for it, you don't really realize until you do, because the legendary status of the guitar riff and the vocals on this one can't be overstated enough. But Tom's bass line really is a backbone for the band here. So it's incredible what he does. He is an ultimate connector, like I said, in and out of different sections of the song. And also, on Mama Kin, he flows effortlessly between complimenting each and every member of the band. He's got a real good interplay with Steven as well during the pre-chorus. So Mama Kin, a super strong contender here to start. Something's Gotta Give. This is off of 9 Lives, 1997. The band's closest thing to a sort of garage grunge sound with anything that they've done. This song has got a heavy, distorted bass line. Tom does a really beautiful lead-in to the chorus on this one. It's the perfect instance of Tom playing for a song. He's really right in the pocket of that rhythm section and perfectly level in the mix. He's not too high or too low. This one is quite like a train kept a-rolling, so to speak, and it really just chugs along. He gives the song an extra layer, doubling the guitars. You know, there's Not as much that he's doing separate of the rest of the band on this one, but he is providing that low end and really just adding to the garage rock sound that they're going for, giving it, like I said, more of a distortion. So it's a cool track, definitely a little bit of a different vibe for Aerosmith, but shows some prowess from Tom as well. So here, this is a pretty easy one for me. This one has got to go to Mama Kin. So Mama Kin's going to beat out Something's Gotta Give. That is the end of that matchup there. Okay? Now, next matchup we got is another first album cut. The first cut on the first album, entitled Make It. This song has got another great story to it, of course, being entitled Make It. Very, very ambitious of Aerosmith to put this as their first song, because it just tells a lot about the band's demeanor at the time and their mindset. But it's a blistering one to me. Another one where I did not think it was going to make this list. What you guys have to remember about Tom, if you've not thought about this already, he was not classically trained in any way. He learned by himself, but this is on the first album. He's putting together these bass lines, and like I said with Mama Kin, sometimes just leading the way for this band on an album where, they were a little apprehensive once that red light came on. So with Make It, he's got a domineering entrance with his bass line into the verses. He's creating a perfect runway for a switch up of the musical ideas, and this track showcases that right out of the gate. Album 1, track 1. He doesn't overplay. He's got an undeniable lock-in on this one with Joey Kramer during the bridge. He helps build the final verse with the guitars to the final chorus for Steven to hammer home his grit and grind on Make It. Great track. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. It's going up against 2001's Light Inside, the only representation from Just Push Play on this list. Now, I think this is an underrated cut off the album. This is one they did play live a bit during that era. And also, I don't know if anyone else notices this, but I do. When I've seen Aerosmith live, I feel like this song was born out of the Rats in the Cellar breakdown jam that the band does live. To me, I can hear the main riff from Light Inside during that jam. So I think it was really born out of that, and it's really cool that it went from being a live improvisational jam to something that they recorded into a fully fleshed out song. Now, Tom plays intelligently for the song on this one. He doesn't, like I said with Make It, it's another one where he's not overplaying, and he honors the low end of the song on the verses. He really isn't doing too much, but he's right where he needs to be in terms of being in the mix and giving this song a fullness and a color that it really needs. He syncs up with Brad for the solo section, and he's got another tasty lead-in from the bridge back into the final chorus. This one is definitely a little tough, but just thinking of the sound of the two songs, I really think this one, alright, it's a little tougher than I thought, but I think it has to go to Light Inside. I just think that the gravity of the low end on that song really is what gives it the heaviness that it needs to be a standout track on the album, and a track that the band eventually brings to a live setting. So, Light Inside, gonna move forward against Make It. Now, the next matchup, Draw the Line, Sight for Sore Eyes, with Love Her a Lot from Music from Another Dimension. That is the band's most recent full-length studio album from 2012 with original music. Love Her a Lot was one of the 3 singles. It's got a pretty heavy sound to it, a great guitar riff. One of the true stars of the song for me is the guitar solo on Love Her a Lot. But the bass line does a lot of work as well. This is one of those where I think they should have turned Tom up in the mix. And if you're really carefully listening to this bass, you can really see late into his career how Tom has mastered this instrument and really done a great job being able to do a lot with a little bit. And by that, I mean he's not getting a ton of shine on this song or in the production, but he's still really holding a lot together. Now, the bass begins the song playfully switching between support of Brad and Joe's parts. During the pre-chorus, it gets funky as shit. Tom plays like a 5-tool player on this song. Now, that reference, for those of you who may not understand, is to baseball. Calling a 5-tool player, that's someone who can master all aspects of the game. And that's how I feel like Tom is on this track, both literally and figuratively. He has really mastered all of this. Now, he's got this menacing cyclical bass line going on during the chorus section. There's a part of the verses are split up in two. The second part of the verse, which might be considered a pre-chorus, the bass line switches up, gets heavier, and even more locked in to its own part that you can really differentiate from everyone else, and it's a really, really strong bass line. So I think it's underrated. And then during the solo section again, he's locking in with Brad. So a lot of Whitford-Hamilton connection here on Love Her a Lot. Now, Sight for Sore Eyes, this was one of my personal favorites. This is one of the ones that I picked out specifically for this bracket when I was thinking about bass lines that I loved. Now, he definitely leads the way, Tom, through this one. The bass line is super heavy in the mix, and he leads the rhythm section through that. He really creates the perfect canvas for Steven to chop up the choruses, while also giving Brad and Joe's dueling guitars a canvas to noodle and dabble over, because that's what they're really doing during parts of this song. They're exchanging back and forth, Joe and Brad, very well, might I add, but it's Tom's bass line that is laying the groundwork for them to be able to do that so effortlessly. So the bass line is very integral to this track, and Tom has a great tone on this one, and the line gets really thick during the outro. This is a super tough choice. Both of these are songs that I would want to make it to the second round. Here in the moment, again, I'm seeing this for the first time. It's so difficult, this one. I am gonna give it the slight edge to Sight for Sore Eyes. I'm sorry to say, because the Love Her a Lot bass line, this is one that I think the track as a whole just doesn't get enough shine. And I really wanted to move further in this competition. It deserves to, but unfortunate matchup with Sight for Sore Eyes. It's not going to go forward. All right. Next matchup, one of my absolute favorites, another one I sought out specifically for this contest. Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man from Pump versus Jig Is Up from Rockin' a Hard Place. Rockin' a Hard Place is, of course, the Aerosmith album that does not feature Joe Perry and only features Brad maybe on one song. Brad also left the band during this process. So representing that album, I think it's pretty cool. The track is Jig Is Up. Jig Is Up, very much like Sight for Sore Eyes, is one of these groove feel tracks for Tom. He's really doing a lot of just doubling of what the guitar, or guitars rather, are doing. But it's so funky and bouncy. I even wrote the word wubby on this one. It's just got a wub to it on the bass line, and he's really laying it on thick. Again, it's just got an addicting tone. I actually wrote in my notes, it's like ice cream. You just want more and more, and it mixes into the apple pie of this track so seamlessly. It's really awesome and creates this sort of dark, brooding sound. And there's a true connection on this one between Tom and Joey. You can really hear it in the mix, the way they're following with and for one another. So it's tough here, this track, complete groove and feel, going up against what I believe is one of Tom's best technical performances, maybe throughout Aerosmith's discography of Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man. This track is buried in the track listing for Pump. It's Whitford and Steven Tyler penned tune with definitely a different vibe from what you're getting from a lot of Aerosmith songs. But this is a great one. And the song basically opens with a mini bass solo. Tom really, as I said, shows off his technical mastery of the bass at this point. He bends colorful notes like a virtuoso during the verses of the song, and he builds this really, really incredible tension and build up to the chorus for everyone else to shine during the song's titular moment. So during the point where Steven is actually uttering Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man, the title of the song, everyone else takes the reins. But before that, it's a Tom Hamilton show. And he adds more fantastic layering to the outro jam on this one. So this one, unfortunately, as much as I love the groove of Jig Is Up, it's a little bit of an easy first round matchup for me. This one goes to Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man. That's moving forward. Alright, now, final matchup of the first round. We have Draw the Lines, Hand That Feeds, with Permanent Vacation's Samurai. These two songs honestly couldn't be more different in tone, in sound, in feel. Hand That Feeds is another dark, drug-infused, heavy, thumpy, thick bass line track. Tom actually has a writing credit on this one. There are a few songs on the list that he actually has a writing credit. I'll mention them all at the end, but this is one of them, and you can definitely tell that his musical ideas are starting to shine through on this one. So it's another groove and feel song, but at the same time, the bass line is really paving the way for everyone else to go ahead and do what they need to do on this track. Samurai, on the other hand, I would call it more of a technical track for him. Once the drums kick into gear on this one, Tom kicks into gear too, with some sharp playing and again, beautiful syncopation with his notes, really creating contrast with the syncopation as well. He has a through line on this song right in the middle of a ton of chaos. There's a ton of color on this song, and all of the parts are kind of straying in different directions to create what is a beautiful mess with a lot of color. Not to use that word again, but that is just how this song feels when you listen to it. It's almost, I don't have synesthesia, which is something where you can see color, but this song gets me close to that. I'll say that. Tom does an impeccable job weaving his notes around a wailing Steven during the chorus. He really, when the rest of the mix is silent, he throws in some very timely notes on this one, and he is the only thing outside of Steven that you can hear. So the bass line is important on this one, and he absolutely tethers the rhythm section during the solo. So Samurai, a really beautiful track. Another one, like Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man, kind of hidden within the track list of Permanent Vacation, but definitely worth a look. Now, on Hand That Feeds, like I said, it's more of a brooding, heavy bass, but Tom has perfect syncopation to oppose Steven's vocal line, and also interplay with the guitars, imposing itself in the best way possible. The song marches forward because of what Tom is doing here. The verses, he does a great job doubling the guitars, and he does a fantastic maintenance, so to speak, of the melody during the solo section. He keeps that alive and creates yet another through line for this song. On the ending solo, because there are multiple on this one, he does a great job of locking in with what Joe wants to do and maneuvers around him like an expert. On the outro, he sets the pace and leaves room for both Joe and Brad yet again to just jam. And Joey does the same thing as Tom. So they are once again locked in with one another for Hand That Feeds. This is a really, really tough one. Because of the more technical prowess, I'm leaning towards Samurai. Hand That Feeds again has a Hamilton writing credit and is just a real representative of the 70s sound. But I'm gonna go Samurai because we have a similar piece of that already with Sight for Sore Eyes. So based on that is why I'm allowing Samurai to move forward here. Okay, so for our next round, we are going to have a bye because we have an uneven amount of songs. So SOS Too Bad has already made it to the next round. For those of you keeping track, the songs remaining, including SOS Too Bad, are Light Inside, Sight for Sore Eyes, Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man, and Samurai. Again, I'm seeing all of this for the first time. Now, these rounds are going to go a little quicker because I've already given you guys a preview of the songs. Light Inside and Sight for Sore Eyes, these are both more so groove-based songs, okay? Sight for Sore Eyes, I would say Tom is heavier in the mix and providing more of the rhythm section that we need. Light Inside, he's lower in the mix, really accentuates the low end, but he is at the forefront in Sight for Sore Eyes. So I think Sight for Sore Eyes is going to win this one easily and move on against Light Inside. Now, the next matchup we have here is Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man and Samurai. Both of these coming from late 80s albums, Permanent Vacation for Samurai and Pump for Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man, respectively. Now, both of them have a more technical aspect to them, as I covered, a more luscious and diverse sound from Tom, as opposed to the 70s more groove and feel-based songs. For me, this round is fairly simple. It's got to go to Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man. Okay, that's going to beat out Samurai. Now, the semifinal. We've got two matchups left. Here, let's break down the songs remaining. SOS Too Bad from Get Your Wings. Mama Kin from self-titled debut. Sight for Sore Eyes from Draw the Line. Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man from Pump. The only remaining representative from the comeback era is Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man. Alright, now, SOS Too Bad versus Mama Kin. Listen, the groove and feel of Tom on SOS is downright amazing, but what he does on Mama Kin for the stage he was in his musical career, for the age he was at the time, for the gravity that this song holds for a band such as Aerosmith, the way that he forges a path for them, as someone who was probably one of the least experienced in the band at the time, I would say, in terms of doing anything remotely close to professional or amateur or whatever you'd like to call it. Mama Kin is a masterclass, and I think we all need to credit Tom for his work on that. So it's going to move forward against SOS. Too bad. And it is too bad because SOS is an awesome song. Underappreciated. Go check it out. Now, the last matchup before the final is Sight for Sore Eyes and Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man. Sight for Sore Eyes, another one of those straight up groove tracks. Really sleazy, with the vocal line, and just a great feel from all of the band members. You can tell it's right in the pocket of what they love to do together musically. But Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man, just, I think, in terms of the complexity of the bass line, in terms of its importance to the depth of the song, and in both of these songs, I'm going to say the bass line does a great job creating the tonal quality of the song and the type of song it's going to be for the band. But Hoodoo Voodoo altogether, I think, is just more of a package. And so that's going to move on to the final round. So, final round, we've got Mama Kin versus Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man. Now, this is a tough one. It really, really is. Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man and Mama Kin. Sorry for some pause here. I really just want to think about each of them separate of my notes, purely about their sound and what they mean before I make this decision, because this is the final level of the bracket. And okay, so I think here we're gonna go with Mama Kin. As beautiful as Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man is, Mama Kin has the gravity of being an iconic song for the band. It's littered with things that are meant to overpower Tom in a way, because the vocal line and the riff and the interplay between the songs or the band's main songwriters in Steven Tyler and Joe Perry is immaculate. But somehow, when you break it down and you focus on the bass line of this song, Tom is the thing that is shining through. While the other things are incredible as well. Do not get me wrong. I've listened to the song for nearly 20 years, and it's one of my favorites in their catalog, regardless. But when you really, really break it down, he helps them through sections where there is no vocal line. He continues to pierce through. He's at the top of the mix, and this is early on. That's why it's so surprising to me. I thought that it would be a good song for this competition, starting out. I did not realize it was going to make it this far, and I did not realize how prominent the bass really is. So Mama Kin very slightly edges out Hoodoo Voodoo Medicine Man, okay? That is a strong 1 and 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this bracket. It was fun for me to put together. It definitely took some narrowing down, so I want to talk to you guys about some honorable mentions I had. Some things that maybe were in the list to begin with, but they either were cut or I just never decided to truly add them. We've got Young Lust, also from Pump. That was beaten out, unfortunately. 9 Lives, the title track from the 1997 album. Critical Mass, another one from Draw the Line. I already had 2 representing there. 2 of similar fashion, where Tom and the bass line are prominent in the mix, and it's groove and feel based. A lot of that stuff from the 70s from Tom. So he's got a writing credit on that one too. Told you guys I would kind of break that down a little bit. Uncle Salty, a deep cut off of Toys in the Attic. Pretty addicting bass line. I feel like people forget about it. Another Tom writing credit there on Uncle Salty. That did not make it. A 3 Mile Smile. This is a cool track from Night in the Ruts, the 1979 album, right before Joe leaves the band. Cheesecake from the same album, another one. A song I really wanted to give a shout out to. This is a bonus track on Music from Another Dimension, Up on the Mountain. This is the only song in Aerosmith's discography that has lead vocals from Tom Hamilton. He provides a sick bass line, and in the same vein where a lot of the Joe Perry lead vocal tracks, where Steven will provide the harmonizing and backing vocal, sometimes at a higher volume than the lead. He does that same thing with Tom here, and it works beautifully. That song deserves some shine. Everybody who is a fan of this band should go listen to it. That's a bonus track that they were doing in 2012, and it blows my mind that they were experimenting this much musically by that point. Some classics that I failed to include: Toys and Draw the Line. There was a point where I was deciding whether this bracket needed to be anchored by a couple of more classic songs, but then I decided this was gonna just come down to my ear and how I felt about the bass line. And so many people can cover these Aerosmith songs. They've been spoken about, and they deserve to be. And I will speak about them in the future as well when I cover these albums. But they didn't make the list, but of course they have fantastic bass lines. The movie from Permanent Vacation, that is an all-instrumental track. Not many of those in Aerosmith's discography, but that is a good one. What I've noticed from doing this, Tom is really an underrated songwriting contributor within the band. You know, everyone's got writing credits littered. Obviously, most of them are Steven and Joe. But for the ones that Tom has, there are a lot of quality songs from era to era. So really check that out if you were interested in this list. Now, another thing I just want to point out, some recurring things that I might have noticed with Tom's bass lines. Like I did mention, he really is a true connector. He can be understated in his bass lines and complementary to what's going on, but he can still lead the way, all within the same song. He effortlessly flows between playing off of or for different members of the band at different moments. It's very intuitive. So go back and listen to this. Even some of his understated bass lines, you're going to realize how much of a glue they provide for the song. As we all know, he's got a tremendous groove and feel. I talked about it on much of the songs here. He doesn't always need to be technical in his playing for him to shine through. And he brings gravity and color to so many songs through just small accents and remarkable tone of his bass. So many of his lead outs of sections of songs within a song are seamless and absolutely essential to the functioning of this quintet. Alright, so it's been a pleasure to cover these Tom bass lines in more detail. And I hope to do stuff like this with the rest of the members of the band going forward into the future. Something I really want to mention and drive home at the end of this episode, this is more housekeeping of the podcast. I don't know if I've been saying it as much, but if you guys are liking this, you know, I am tracking the view counts. This whole thing is new for me. I appreciate anyone listening so much. I also have an Instagram page. It's at Get Your Wings. It's GETU like umbrella, R like Robert, Wings. So Get Your Wings. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on with this show, when episodes drop, different things within the Aerosmith world, that is the way to stay in tune with this podcast if you like it. That's also the place I'd love to hear from you guys. Please, if you have suggestions for what you want to hear about on the show, message me, comment things. Let's have conversation. Listen, I just chose 12 Tom Hamilton songs for a bracket. What did I miss? What are you guys surprised that did or didn't make it on here? What are you surprised as far as how the bracket went? Well, do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? Please, I want all of the interaction from anyone who's listening. Anything you have to say, I'm happy to respond and have discourse about this. This is what I love to speak about. So any of you watching, if you have a thought, please do not hesitate to share it. You can comment on the YouTube videos. You can obviously subscribe. That is completely up to you with what you want to do. But I want you guys to know, like it or not, I want the feedback. All right? All the smoke. I will take it. I am very capable when it comes to this band being able to take the critique, because I do have my own view of things, but I love to talk about it. So please bring it all my way. I would love to interact with you guys more. All right. So coming out of this episode here, as I said, I hope to have more for you guys this year, a more consistent output. I want to hold myself accountable, so I'm saying it here on the episode that I'm hoping to come to you more often with this show. I have a lot of exciting ideas and things I would like to do. Like I said, please, if you have ideas, send them my way. I do briefly want to touch on the fact that Aerosmith and their own social media had a push toward the new year for people to sign up for the newsletter with a sort of street sign animation showing Commonwealth, a sign maybe toward Gillette Stadium, and different areas within Boston. Now, January is the anniversary for the self-titled album, and a couple of years ago, when Steven first suffered his vocal injury and the tour was postponed, the Peace Out Farewell Tour, they had posted a picture of him in the studio with some headphones on, saying that he was going to be remixing the first album. So I do think that is pretty cool, and I'm interested to see what would come of it. But some people were speculating that the signing up for the newsletter is in preparation of the announcement of some sort of tour or live show or something like that. I don't believe that it is. I believe that with what we've seen from Steven to this point, he may be able to put together one show or a couple of shows here or there just to give the band a true farewell on stage. And I hope for that. And I hope I'm wrong and that there's more coming. But I think this push for the newsletter is just the band may be releasing that updated mix of the first album at some point this year, and maybe some other things. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of their announcements more recently has been about anniversary merch for different albums, which some of the merch is very cool. As a fan, I do enjoy it. I enjoy commemorating the musical works that built their career and that I love. But at the same time, I wish some of these announcements were different than they are. So my thought on that is it's just to promote the fact that they are going to be releasing something. I don't think it's prefacing any performance type announcement, at least at this juncture. Maybe further down the line, as the year goes on. Obviously, their latest release was with Youngblood, and he had taken a break from his tour, so that could be influencing what they're choosing to do right now as well. Now, an interesting, actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna go there. For this episode, I'm gonna call it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the bracket. I'm gonna be back for another one. We may have our first album review coming up soon. I'm hoping that will be a deep foray into the album. I'm not going to tell you guys which one it is or why, but it's not going to be necessarily in any type of order as I've already covered. So, got that to look forward to, as well as some other things. So, with that, I say to each of you, thank you very much for listening here. Enjoy your week, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace out, folks.